am calling village board meeting to order for May 24th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hartman.
Present.
Trustee Kettlebaiter.
Here.
Trustee Polakowski.
Here.
Trustee Brunner.
Here.
Trustee Thuzius.
Here.
Trustee Brocious.
Here.
President Langfeld.
Here. Let's stand for pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the village board on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the village board encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. What we're going to do tonight is Kevin's going to have a timer going when there's 30 seconds. Well, after 2.5 minutes, he'll give me a sign. I will, whoever's speaking, I'll say 30 seconds left, and then he'll let me know when the 3 minutes are up, and I'll ask the person to finish up. That way we can keep the meeting going. So we'll open it up with public comment from here at the library to start with.
Okay, so first up on the list here, I have Deb Butler, 2840 Dennis Street.
You want to stay?
Yeah, go ahead and come up. There's a mic up here.
I'm Deb Cutler, as you all know. I hope you had time to read my opposition email to ATVs on our public road. However, what I'd like to address is thanking you for finally looking at Glacier Edge Square. I think that is one of the worst eyesores in the community and a big problem for our local economy. I stopped going to the restaurants there after numerous times of drinking their water, and it actually causing me physical discomfort and illness afterwards. If you look in their bathrooms, their plumbing's not only antiquated, but kind of gross. So it worried me about the food there. I also love the bleachers that Mike is presenting tonight, and I hope you go for choice C. Even though it is more expensive, it helps klutzy people like me get up the bleachers since I have very short legs and bleachers are usually very high. So I hope you consider my comments, and you got a big meeting to go through tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, next I have Dave Stotts, 3080 St. Francis Street.
Yeah, my name is Dave Stotts. I live at 3080 St. Francis Street for the last 30 years approximately. I just wanted to say I am in favor of the ATV UTV ordinance to be continued. I have seen vehicles go by my house and I have not seen any problems whatsoever up in the St. Francis area. So I'm in favor of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on here, I have Debbie Miller, 7018 Laufenberg Boulevard.
Hello, I'm also here to address the ATV on village streets. I am not in favor of it. Laufenberg Boulevard has so many families with, kids that are 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in the summer, it really explodes, but even those ages. There's little kids that go out on those bicycles that have no pedals because they're too little to even use those. People walking dogs, but it's really the safety of the little people that is my major concern. A lot of ATVs, because that stands for all-terrain vehicles, may not have any turn signals. I would say I'm very pleased with the fact that you want them to have a driver's license, a special training on operating that. And I know that's not the case in some places. But particularly because of the new development, I personally do not know if you're going to make that a throughway, or what we were told when it was first being discussed, it was going to be a gravel roadway with a chain across it so that that could be opened up in case of emergency vehicles like fire trucks, those types of things. And they needed 2 access ways. I don't know if that's still the case or not, but that's what we were told. And if that's not true, and that becomes a major throughway, my concern very much escalates. I want safety for those little kids. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
So we have a hand raised here by Pam Bourne on Zoom. Want me to take that?
Go to Zoom now.
All right, Pam, I've asked you to unmute. Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself and go ahead with the comment.
Hi, I'm Pam Bourne. I live on the corner of Brewery and Finnis. I'm in opposition of the ATV continuing, primarily because I still believe that these are not vehicles that should be on roads. They're manufactured to be on off-roads, and I still believe that for the safety of people, they should be using them the way they're manufactured. I have witnessed some inappropriate use after hours. By the time I would call the police, there'd be nothing to see, but it's somebody in the cul-de-sac that has more than once driven after 8 o'clock. And in the evening, it's been, I think they're going up to the top of the hill. I don't know who lives on the top of the hill in the cul-de-sac, or vice versa if they're coming down. Sometimes the lights aren't on them, but you can clearly know that they're an ATV, and then they pull in their garage and it's all over. So that person is making it rough for those that support it, and they could probably address it with those couple of people. I've heard the ATVs climbing the other side of the hill as well. So those are not roads, those are not trails intended for the community either. I do think that people still ride around, and a nice night, they want to hop on theirs and drive around town. That's considered the joyride part, but how do you monitor that? So it's really still impossible to monitor that unless they're in violation, where a policeman would have to actually stop them for some reason. So I heard the other lady and her comments, and I agree. We've got a lot of little kids around this corner down here that cross back and forth, and all you need is for one of them to pop out. Same for over by the new park where all that equipment is. Those cars are parked on both sides, and I'm fearful that some child's going to pop out there, even with a car, let alone an ATV. So again, I'm still in opposition of it. I think the person that wrote a letter trying to make some changes to the ordinance isn't even from the town or the village of Cross Plains, and that letter should be disregarded. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next here, I have Caitlin Kowalski. Caitlin, go ahead. I've asked you to unmute.
Hi there. Yep, my name is Caitlin Kowalski. I live on the corner of Ballenbeck and Finnis. My husband and I are for the ATV ordinance. We personally we've been here since 2018, and we've never had any issues with people in ATVs. Never seen anyone, disobey any traffic signs, any stop signs, or anything like that. I found everyone has been respectful, and yeah, have never had any issues. We've actually had more issues with people in vehicles running the stop sign right at the corner, turning onto Finnis from Ballenbeck, and more people coming around this corner at 45 miles an hour than anything. So we personally are for the ordinance, and we've never had or seen anything that would make us decide otherwise.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'll ask if there's anyone else on Zoom that would like to speak on this, on Grand Public Comments.
Very good.
I don't see anyone else here. Okay,
All right.
and then want me to go to the writing? So I have a written request from Malia Hicks here to read her email. She wanted to be with us, but we're not able to do that.
Didn't we
It is
have-
in the packet, correct?
Okay, in the packet that was sent.
It was in the packet. It's in the packet that was sent out. So it's up to you if you would like me to read them.
What are, I don't, I think we all can read, so I think we can move on.
Oh, come on, Jay, go ahead and let it be read into the record.
All right, we'll let it get read. Well, are you suggesting we read them all into the record?
Just, I mean, if there's a request and Bill wants to request it, let's just go ahead and make this one happen.
Well, it was requested by the person who wrote it. The email was included in the packet.
All right, go ahead, read it.
So-
I don't want to waste too much. Let's move forward.
Sure.
We got a long, so go ahead and read it.
Okay. So, dear trustees, I am writing in opposition to the ATV UTV ordinance and request that you please allow it to expire at the end of the trial period. Vehicles designated specifically for off-road use have no place on public roadways in our community for the following reasons. Many roads on our village have no sidewalks, requiring children, dogs, and bicycles to share the roadway with vehicles. ATVs, UTVs are now required to be equipped with safety equipment such as brake lights, turn signals, or seat belts, which increase the risk of all drivers and pedestrians on our roads. The existing the existing trail ordinance was violated multiple times. Please ask Bill C. or Chief Tony for specific number of complaints. We already have more traffic and speeding in our village than can adequately be addressed by our police force. There is not enough parking in the village for vehicles that are actually designed to be driven on public roads. I live on a cul-de-sac and have an ATV drive right up and down the street without stopping for no apparent reason. That violates the ordinance. There is a family across the street with 3 little kids that wander across the road all the time to pet my neighbor's dog. Just yesterday on our way back from soccer practice, one of them, she must be 3 or 4 years old, literally ran towards my car. But now our village is being asked by someone who is not a resident here to lift the restriction of going from point A to point B. Just because there have been no citations, it doesn't mean there have been no violations. Outsiders that do not live in our village seem to think that our laws are their business. They have tried to influence and persuade our trustees and have been allowed to speak at our village meetings. This is strictly disgraceful. They are not voters or taxpayers of the village of Cross Plains and should not be allowed to influence our legislation. The will of our residents should be the top priority in this decision, not outsiders with institutional resources that any residents opposed to this ordinance do not have at their disposal. The town of Cross Plains, whose board voted against allowing ATVs to drive on their roads, has been approached twice by this organization to take up the question again, and they have, to their credit, refused to do so. In addition to the outside pressure, many of our neighbors who oppose legislation are afraid to speak up because of public bullying and chastisement over social media. I have publicly been told to move my family out of town, as have others that have expressed opposition to this ordinance. Moms that incorrectly helped put flyers on mailboxes one time without realizing it was not okay, have been repeatedly accused of breaking the law and committed criminal acts while the Boy Scouts, driven frequently by their parents with flyers and mailboxes in the village all the time, and nobody calls them criminals or says they're breaking laws. This is straight up intimidation aimed at only those that disagree. Proponents of this legislation suggest that it is bringing business and community or supporting businesses that are already here, yet there has been no evidence provided to support this. Coaches Club is closing this month. Cross Plains has an abundant natural resources that extend far beyond roads and bars. The Ice Age Alliance is based here. Let's attract more business by branding ourselves as a refugee for quiet sports like hiking, biking, running, cross-country skiing, and fishing. That will draw many more people and businesses to Cross Plains than off-road vehicles can, as quiet sports are affordable to more people. This is our most sustainable path and the best way to leverage all that Cross Plains has to offer. There is a tendency in this village that feels entitled to get whatever they want because they have lived here longer, but Cross Plains is growing and has many diverse voices, each with an equal right to influence the community where they and their families have lived and paid taxes. This ordinance will affect thousands of people in the village, not only those few that ride ATVs, but the badger book. The only way to truly find out what the people of Cross Plains want is to hold an anonymous referendum on the issue, as was done by the nearby town of Vermont. I would think that as public servants, you would be inclined to care what the majority of your constituents want. At the very least, if the ordinance cannot be allowed to expire, I implore you to extend the trial period and the sunset clause by another year without changing any language. This pandemic was a bizarre in so many ways. It was nothing like normal life. If the one-year trial was meant to prove that this community, that the ordinance isn't really going to impact the quality of life, please follow through with that promise by proving that to us in only 1 year, when society is open, not particularly or completely shut down. Maybe we can give each other a little bit more time. Thanks so much for your consideration. To the amazing community, Molly Hicks, 205 please.
Thank you. All right, I'm closing public comment. We'll go to the consent agenda. Upon request of any trustee, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration under general business. Do you have anything that we would like to move? Jude?
I just have a question about number 6.
Yeah. I think we have to remove that because there's 3 choices. Yeah.
So I make a motion to approve the consent agenda and pulling out item number 6 for separate consideration.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All same. All right, we're at reports of village officers, village president. I'll pass on that tonight. Judy?
Okay.
Any other trustee would like to make a comment? Doug?
I'll just make a quick one that we had a good turnout for our event on Saturday. We had a poker run featuring 7 businesses, 40 plus participants, and then a few more for the DJ at the end. I appreciate Andy and the chief stopping by. Thank you.
All right. Village administrator, Bill.
Yes, just the one. So I'm working with CARP-C, the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission, on this green infrastructure planning for stormwater management and flooding along within the Black Earth Creek watershed. We are planning a stakeholder meeting on June 16th. And I believe that is at the American Legion. There will be more information coming out on that. There are 6 different stakeholder meetings together. This first one is a focus on urban residents, so the hazards within urban communities. There will also be a meeting in August for focusing on elected officials and green infrastructure issue opportunities and strategies. So please mark your calendars and more.
All right, thank you. Any other reports?
We don't have any others.
Okay, going to general business. We'll start with regarding an ordinance to create a water impact fee. Letter A, public hearing on the ordinance to create a water impact fee. Do I have a motion to open up a public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Public hearing is open on the creation ordinance to create a water impact fee. Do we have any speakers?
So I just want to quickly note that we did publish this as a class 1 notice in Middleton, House Plains Times Review. And then we also held it for public observation in the clerk's office for 20 days prior to this. We have not received any objections to it or any requests to speak previous to this meeting.
We've met all the requirements that is required by state statute.
That is correct.
And we have no one that wants to speak. How about on Zoom?
I can ask.
Go ahead and ask. Just have them speak up.
Is anyone on? Is there anyone out there on Zoom that would like to speak in regards to the creation of a water impact fee for the village of Cross Plains? Please go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself, announce yourself. Going once. Going twice. Third time.
All right. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. All right, we're on to B, discussion and possible action to adopt an ordinance to create a water impact fee. Do I have a motion?
I would move to adopt an ordinance to create a water impact fee.
All right, do I have a second?
I second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second to create an to adopt an ordinance to create a water impact fee. Any discussion?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
So looking at page 111, and it is section J5, 5 and 6. So I just want to make sure this is clear. Yep, you got it, Phil. So the REU is going to be $1,468 per REU, and depending on the meter size, will depend on how many REUs. So if you have a 3 inch, is that 3 inch or
Yeah, 3 inch.
You're talking about three-quarters inch.
Yeah, no. Well, it says
He wants to know if you multiply, if that's a multiplier.
Oh, okay.
yeah. So the REUs on the right are the multiplier of the $1,468, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to verify that. Thank you.
All right, and Michael.
I just have one question, I guess. This is just for one connection. If they have 2 meters, it's only billed one time, like they'd have an irrigation meter. It's only a one-time billing then, right?
No, I don't know that. We have, how does that work if you have multiple meters?
Should I talk into a microphone? Or?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, go ahead.
This would be per consumption meter connection. So if a house had a consumption meter and a irrigation meter, the irrigation meter is a deduct almost meter, removing from your sewer. It's not increasing the normalness, I guess, of your use. So this would be, to answer your question, for that it'd be one.
It would be one.
But if it was an apartment building that had or a condo association that had 12 individual meters, they'd have 12.
Okay.
It's kind of more of a customer count, I guess, is a better way to do it than
kind of if the water is going to be returning to the sewer plant. I mean, that's too much of a generalization.
Yeah, too much of a generalization. But to answer your specific question, that'd be one per house.
That's what I wanted to.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, any other questions?
Ryan, he'll pick it up if you stand up.
Oh, good. I don't have to swallow it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, we'll close discussion. Do you want a roll call vote on this, Bill, or?
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Brochus,
Yes.
trustee Thuzius,
Yes.
trustee Brunner,
Yes.
trustee Paul Mikowski,
Yes.
trustee Hartman,
Yes.
trustee Kettlebaiter,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. All right. Number 2, discussion and possible action regarding section 52.06 sub C sub 18 of the Code of Ordinance regarding the 1-year sunset clause concerning the operation of ATVs/UTVs on roadways within the village of Cross Plains. This was deliberately narrowly focused, so we're only talking about the sunset clause tonight. It makes no sense to talk about the other elements of this until action on this one is taken. So whatever happens tonight, if there's other action that wants to happen, that should go through the Public Safety Committee, then back up through us. So, because we're noticing just on the sunset. So, I guess, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to extend the sunset 1 year.
I'll second it.
Okay, we're at discussion. All right, who wants to go first? Doug?
I'm not in favor of extending the sunset 1 year. The 1 year was a compromise between 6 months and 2 years.
I am going to agree. It was originally proposed from the Public Safety Committee, and I know I mentioned it at least at 2 of the 5 meetings we had on this topic, that it should be 2 years. There was resistance to that from the people who were opposed to it, and the compromise was 1 year. I don't see a need to prolong this another year. While some people have mentioned the pandemic, if anything, that has placed more eyes and ears in the village than you would have on any other year. Plus you had no school, so you had more kids in the village than we would ever have. So I think it was a fine time to do. I agree, if we make compromises and then people don't uphold to it, I think it's less likely that people will continue to do compromising, and I don't think that's what we want. 1 year, that was the deal. I think we need to move forward and just vote this one way or the other. Andy?
Yeah, I would also disagree with the 1 year, although I think that we have to acknowledge that there's been substantial amount of residents in Cross Plains who feel one way or the other about this issue. And so we should at least hear them and extend the sunset to 3 years. Because at least then we get time for the UTV, ATV groups to maybe build some trails and connect Cross Plains to Mazo and Black Earth and Sauk, or wherever they want to do, or whatever the limitations are without having, lack of a sunset. And then it also lets people know that we are seriously reconsidering collecting data, because as you said, we've been in a pandemic for an entire year. And so how are we going to have accurate data about anything during this particular time period? So I would say let's just extend it out a little bit more than a year. That would at least give them the bridge to build some trails and bring that recreation in, but at the same time, let the residents here who are concerned about it know that we're going to reconsider it.
Okay, anybody else?
Yep.
Okay, Bill, go ahead.
Thank you. So there are a lot of people within the village that have both in favor of and not in favor of the ATV, right? And I think their voices need to be heard. There's quite a few voices that agree with the motion with extending it another year, because this was a pandemic, and I don't think we got a good sampling of what we're seeing. I think we have had some incidences of some ATV drivers not obeying the rules that were out there from 8 to 8. We have, that's documented, but obviously we can't catch them because they're already gone. I don't think flatly approving this thing forever is a wise decision to make. Obviously it has not helped with the improving the financial means of our community because we have coaches closing, and not that the ATV group would be totally supportive of coaches, but it's it didn't bring in enough people from outside in the area, which we knew it wasn't going to sustain our current our businesses. So I'm actually in opposition to actually approving this thing, but I would extend it another year that is a non-pandemic year to continue getting more data. Thank you.
Okay, I have Judy, and then Doug, and then Kevin.
I only seconded really just for sake of motion or sake of talking about it. I actually like what Andy had said for 3 years, just because it was an awful year. We can't blame coaches on ATVs or anything. I mean, it was a bad year for every business pretty much, except for colors. But it was just not a good year to use this as an example. So I like the idea of doing it for 3 years, and I would totally support that.
All right, I have Doug and Kevin.
So the point I want to make about adding a 3-year sunset, any ordinance could be brought up by a village trustee at any time. If there's issues with the ATV ordinance, it can be rescinded at any time. The sunset clause piece, the ATV club has put energy and money into the signs, energy into trying to get private trail. We are still working for some connections with some townships. One of the reasons Town-of-Berry and Town of Cross Plains haven't passed that is because of the sunset, because they're not sure it will be permanent. So then they turn it on and their residents can't get to Cross Plains. I'm very respectful of the 3-year, but I think with the power of elections and the power of the village board and the way the ordinance code is written, if there's an issue or a problem or a change in the elections, then it can be brought up as an agenda item at 1 year, at 1.5 years, and at 2 years. It puts us in a tough position as a group of volunteers who actually do bring business to town. I don't believe coaches close because the ATV routes will open. We've got a lot of thank yous for our event on Saturday from the 7 businesses that we put participants and consumers in. I know we're not perfect. We've made a lot of compromises and extra restrictions. I am proud of what the group of riders have done for this village, period.
All right, Kevin?
Yeah, my motion was intentionally simple because I didn't want to muddy it with the talk of referendum, but that's where I think we should go really here for the village. It's not part of the motion intentionally, but if whatever we put it at, 1 year, 3 years, or forever, I think, and I'm going to push for a referendum on this subject.
All right, I don't want to talk about the referendum. We'll bring that up separately at a different meeting. So it will be not noticed properly. All right, Michael.
I'm going to say that I am for dropping the sunset clause and allowing the club to explore the possibilities that they're going to. I agree with Doug with the possibility that once those unknowns are removed, then the townships might move forward, and then you actually truly get a true experience of what having this ordinance in place actually offers the village. And if in offering this and things start to happen, any trustee can on a future agenda item ask to bring this ordinance back up for a reconsideration.
Right, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I think I agree that we should definitely collect the data. I've been in education and I know what it's like to be in a world where there's initiatives that never get data collected, and then you just keep spinning your wheels and you do one thing after another year. And this ATV UTV ordinance has only been in effect during the pandemic. We definitely need to give it another year at the very least, but I think it would be in the board's interest to hear the population that's communicating to us and telling us that they're against this, and just put a elongated sunset clause on it, extend it another 3 years. That gives us the opportunity to actually look at data, to see if it's benefiting, to give the ATV, UTV folks time to connect some routes, and then we can reassess.
All right, I'm just calling myself. First, we've been studying this for 18 months. This is the 5th time we have caught this up and spent and heard public comment. So I am very comfortable. We have heard a great deal of public comment. I can tell you from the different meetings, the individuals have pretty much stayed in their lanes on what side of the issue they are. I haven't seen a lot of people going the other way. The 1 year sunset was to collect data. I think the chief has collected data. I'm a big person of data collection, but if we're going to collect data, then someone's got to write down what data we're collecting. I believe we're just going in a circle, and as it's been mentioned and as you've seen in meetings, we create and remove ordinances all the time. It's very rare that we don't drop an ordinance, change an ordinance, or add an ordinance. So again, there's still that opportunity. It's not like when the sunset goes, we can't have any action. But I think we need to move on with this. And if it becomes problematic, just like with anything else, then we adjust the ordinance and do it. But right now, I think we're just going to repeat this in 1 or 3 years, what we're doing tonight. And like I said, I think everybody has had great opportunity to express. We've had lots of meetings on this topic. All right, so just so everybody's clear, we're voting on extending the sunset clause for 1 year. That was the motion. That was the second. So we're going to do a roll call vote. Wait, Michael.
I guess that's my one question, is that ordinances are repealed and created just on a simple majority from the village board, correctly?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to.
All right. So the motion is, and the second is to extend the sunset clause for 1 year. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Paul Mikowski.
No.
Trustee Hartman.
No.
Trustee Kettlebaiter.
No.
Trustee Brochus.
Yes.
Trustee Thuzius.
Yes.
Trustee Brunner.
No.
President Langfeld.
No. All right, do I have a motion? Doug.
I would like to make a motion to remove the sunset clause from Village Ordinance 52.06.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to remove the sunset clause on ordinance 52.06 sub 18. All right, discussion. All right, I have Doug and then Andy.
I'm going to be brief. I'm in favor of continuing the UTV ordinance. I believe the concerns of the residents were heard and addressed with our added restrictions. I believe we've operated in a safe manner. The last point I'm going to make is just about data and economic development. I've seen it. I see it wherever I ride my ATV. I see it in this village. As far as reports, I've included UW studies for different areas of the state where trails are and where road roads are. The most telling statistic, I believe, is all of Iowa County is open up to road roads. All of Greene County is open up to road roads. 21 of 22 Sauk County townships are open to road roads. It's expanding. People are seeing the commerce, the recreation. Yes, people smile sometimes when they're riding TV or joyride. I've been proud and tried to lead the group in a way that's safe and is a partnership to our village. So I appreciate the consideration of the sunset clause being removed, and I will be the first person to help police educate and continue with that.
All right, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely concur that, you know, in the past year, there's been very few complaints from the police department about ATVs. There's been like 1 citation. Most of the complaints come from a core group of people who are complaining about the ATV use in general. However, as a village board, we definitely need to take into account the fact that people here have apprehension about ATVs. And I think it's our obligation to at least acknowledge that and say, okay, so you feel a little bit apprehensive about it. we also hear what you're saying. We should extend the sunset out for 3-4 years, whatever this board thinks is appropriate tonight. And then we can approach it with some data, like some concrete data that shows that. Like how much economic benefit has occurred? Have we actually made any inroads to different municipalities such as Mesa Mania, Black Earth, and so on and so forth? And so I would hope that we would consider that route, because that way at least people in the village will feel at least that they're being heard in this process, and then we can come together and maybe be pro-ATV as a group, or anti-ATV as a group, or whatever.
I guess I would ask the chief, you've heard and you've given us the hard data that you collected, so we've had that. I'd like to hear your overview of this.
Do you want me to stand or can I?
Yeah, well, you can sit as long as they can pick you up on the mic.
Yeah, I'll pick you up on your level, so you can stand up on the podium. Great.
Okay, so I'm going to be very brief and also cautious not to lend a biased opinion, but the data that we've collected does not show that ATVs are an issue. I mean, the data is clear. We have had some complaints. A lot of the complaints have come after the fact, days after, moments after, things that we couldn't catch them doing it. The one case that we were able to actually find someone, actually took me to help investigate that, to actually come up with the person who did it and actually interview them and get them to confess to it. So it wasn't even that easy to do. So we're not seeing those things. We're also, the other thing is just me going out in the community, talking to people as I'm patrolling. I don't see a lot of ATVs. People in general aren't complaining to me about ATVs. Now traffic, yes, I get gobs of traffic complaints. However, the main opinion that I would give here today is I think that you need to make a decision. This is a topic that is splitting the community. That is clear when I talk to people. It is, you're either for it or against it, and it's creating a divide, and you don't want that to prolong too long. Although I can appreciate going 3 years, going 1 year, going an extended period, I think you always have the right to come back. I can come back to you. I'm going to come back to you every year with a report of everything, and I have a line item on there that says ATV violations. And if I see a problem, I will be the first to jump up and down and say, hey, we've got a problem here. And I think the ordinance kind of covers that, where I can actually stop things immediately and take it to public safety. But I think the key here is about building relationships. It's caused a divide. You guys need to make a decision one way or another and move forward. And then if it becomes a problem, trust me, I will be here. I'll be the first one here to tell you, hey, we have a problem. If not, I think that's about the best opinion I can provide. So I'm not, one way or another, I don't own an ATV, never have, but the data is clear. You know, it's an opinion. Whether I think Jay spoke to one side of the opinion, we've had a lot more people. So if you were going to base numbers, you would think that with more kids and more people, we would have had more issues. However, it's COVID, so people did stay away and kind of stayed. So, I mean, it's just a matter of opinion. So I think that's how come the community is divided on it. And I think that's the responsibility of this board, is to make that decision and bring them together sooner than later. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. And I guess Andy, I agree with you 100% of collecting data, but we can collect the data with this as an ordinance, just like with any other ordinance we want. So, all right, Kevin.
Yeah, I just want to make it really clear that there's a lot more complaints out there. There's level of complaints. There are things that, you know, annoy people and they complain about it to their friend or their neighbor. And then there's things that they complain about, they think they may call the chief on. And then there are the ordinance violations, which are kind of the extreme of that. I was with several couples this weekend, and every one of them had a complaint about ATVs. None of them called the chief to make the complaint. And I think that's throughout the neighborhood, throughout the village. And you talk about a divide. And every time an ATV drives by somebody's house who doesn't like it, it just widens the divide. So I don't quite get it. I think there's one easy way to collect data. And I mentioned it earlier, and I'm going to mention it at the end about future agenda items. Very simple way, very pragmatic way, and it talks to everybody in the village. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
data that I see on the public safety committee and what I think is a danger, although I like dogs, there's 91 complaints about dogs, animal bites, animal poop pickup, we see everywhere, dogs. There's data there that there are other issues in our village. My 91-year-old uncle was knocked over by a dog down at Santa. I have nothing, I would like to get a dog park. I think dogs are wonderful. However, they're also can be a good thing.
Jay?
Okay, yeah, yes, Bill, we gotta stay kind of focused on just the sunset. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that we each get a chance to talk, first of all. The question I've got for the trustees, because that's really where this decision is coming tonight, is are we doing this for the Badger Club or are we doing this for the village of Cross Plains and the people that reside here and pay taxes here? If we're doing it for the Badger Club, yep, let's go ahead and let them go, right? But if we're doing it for the entire village, I think we need to pause, and I think I agree with Kevin. I think they, as much as some people do not want to see a referendum, I think it's important that we do have a referendum. I think the people's voice in this particular instance is critically important. So for that reason, I do not think that enough people within the village of Cross Plains are for this, that I think right now we should not approve this going forward. Thank you.
All right, I have Andy and Judy.
Yep, I hear you, Bill, and I hear you, Kevin. And I think that a referendum is democracy in action. I think that's the way to go at some point in time. However, what we're doing is reacting to a village board decision that was already made, whether or not we should allow ATVs and UTVs to continue. And we've given them the green light for 1 year. And sorry, it was a bad year. Like we're not getting the data we need to get. It was a horrible year for that sort of thing. So let's extend it at the very least, and then actually have people across Plains have an opinion about whether or not ATVs and UTVs belong on the roads or not. Because having a referendum at the start of that would have been uneducated by the masses, right? It would have been a political campaign by both sides, right? So at least after another year or 2 or 3 of an extension of the sunset clause, at least the residents will have something to talk about, something to vote on, instead of just this idea of who rides an ATV and UTV.
Judy? All right, I think we're gonna do a vote, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Kettlebaiter?
I'm sorry. Okay. The motion is to remove the sunset clause of the ordinance.
Yes.
Trustee Hartman?
Yes.
Trustee Paul Mikowski?
Yes.
Trustee Brunner?
Yes.
Trustee Thuzius?
No.
Trustee Brochus?
No.
President Langfeld?
Yes, motion carries. All right, number 3, discussion and possible action to adopt an ordinance to establish zoning districts and amend the zoning classification for certain parcels within the village of Cross Plains. Why don't we have Bill do a summary on this, and then we'll do the motion.
All right, so this is an ordinance to amend the zoning map to reflect previous decisions that the village board had made. The first one, and I can step to the document if anyone has questions. The first one on that list would be for creek crossing. If the zoning ordinance now reflects or would reflect what was approved by the village board as part of the plat process and the developers agreement or development agreement. The second amendment would be for Scenic Valley. This is in regards to a previous ordinance in 2018 that was passed by the village board. Since that zoning ordinance was passed, Scenic Valley de-annexed a part of their plat, therefore required to replat. In the replatting process or a second submittal of the plat, they had a reduction of lots, and so a shifting of residential lots and light industrial primarily. And so that's being brought back here to approve. The third is in regards to, I believe, 1909 Main Street, which was rezoned by general development plan. The fourth one is, 1821 Main Street, which is Montag. That was rezoned as planned development also. For the two projects or two properties with planned development, the village board did hold the necessary public hearings for those and did go through the correct process. However, we did not officially amend the ordinance to reflect that. So again, this is a correction on that part.
All right, would you like 4 separate motions?
No, this is done as one ordinance.
Okay.
We've posted it as one amendment to the overall zoning ordinance map. And we've noticed it properly. We sent out notices and put in the class 2 notification in the newspaper and posted it. I did go to public hearing at the plan commission. Plan commission did recommend approval of the ordinance. I do want to note that it was brought up to me just earlier this afternoon here that for the Scenic Valley zoning, I believe there is a typo in the ordinance. I can here. I believe outlot 9 is shown twice, both in the conservation district and in the SR4 district. It should actually be only the SR4, and I'll show you the map here coming up. But outlot 9 is basically a sidewalk that cuts across the deep block that they have.
I'll make a motion that we approve the zoning map and ordinance amendment that's posted in the agenda.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Everybody want to see what Bill's pulling up?
Yeah,
I'd like to see.
Screen is not big enough. So outlot 9 is this strip of land here. It is basically a sidewalk that cuts across. And I believe we have crossing signs here to get across the street. So all of, lots 36 through 61 in this area are all zoned single residential 4, and therefore this is not a conservancy, to say the least. It is intended for pedestrian traffic. So that should be zoned SR4.
So I have a
Go ahead, Michael.
question on that. So then, yeah, I couldn't find that. I thank you very much earlier, Bill. But in there, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, but there's an outlet 8 on that plat also. Does that need to be, that should be put in to one of those categories also, correct?
That's correct. Is there no outline?
Yeah, there is. It's further down. It's like where the one street, like it's a steep hill. It's gonna be, I can find the page.
So outlot 8 is this area here.
Right, exactly. That wasn't.
And you're saying that's not in the ordinance.
No, because like where you have 9 twice, you don't have 8 there at all.
Okay. So that's, yeah, so that's, we'll fix that.
So 9
and 8.
Yeah, so that second 9 should be 8 then, that's pretty
Correct.
much.
Okay, any other, Kevin, did you want to say something? Oh, no, okay. All right, so I have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So move.
So we don't need a motion to make those changes. We just talked about the 9s and 8s. That's good enough in our discussion. Okay.
All right, discussion and possible action regarding the cost recovery agreement for pre-crossing at St. Francis. Do I have a motion?
want a presentation on this first?
Yes, so, they're on a motion.
All right, so this is a cost recovery agreement. Basically what it states, so per the developer's agreement, we are requiring, as practice, for the developer to install, in this case, 10-inch water mains. You know, what would normally be required as 8 inches through that development. We do this anticipating that there may be future development that may hook up to this water main. And so the purpose of the cost recovery agreement is for the developer to recoup some of the costs that they've invested on the front here for that enlarged water. It does extend 20 years, and so the village would essentially be the agent to not approve new developers into this system unless the incremental amount is paid first to the village, and then the village will transfer that to now developer pre-crossing that. And it's not this, it's familiar practice. We've done this in the past. We'll continue to do it. We'll continue to do it in the future. Example of Scenic Valley is the lift station that we have them upgrade, and the water sewer mains there. We have an existing cost recovery agreement with them also.
Doug?
I will make a motion to approve the cost recovery agreement as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and second. Any discussion? Okay.
I just have, why is the 7.7 highlighted? Is that a number that's potentially going to change?
No, so that's Paul's way of making sure that we have the 77 lots that match the plan.
Yeah, okay. Not that interior party. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. All right, go to number 5, discussion and possible action to adopt a resolution 2021-07 and approve the HM Community Nature Park Pavilion Memorandum of Understanding with the Lions Club of Cross Plains.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve and adopt a resolution for the 2021-07 approve the HM Community Nature Park Pavilion Memorandum of Understanding with the Lions Club of Cross Plains.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah. Okay, I have a motion and a second. We're at discussion. Any discussion? Bill, you got anything?
Nope.
All right. Anybody here?
I have a question.
Michael?
My question is, where did it go? It talks about once funding is attained, this is on the village side under 4, obtain the necessary permits and authorizations. That means that they have to submit that the pavilion in the final design will meet the floodplain restriction, right? There's no rise, like it's not just you get the building permit no matter what, it has to meet the ordinance.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. So there's as we discussed in meetings previous, issues with potentially floodplain, and that would be a requirement for the village as project manager here to acquire through the engineering firm.
I was just making sure of that. On the Tug again.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that I am still against this project. I think it puts the village in a lot of harm's way. If the creek floods, we're responsible for the maintenance on this pavilion. I think if the village bought a portable stage and some generators, or even very soon, you might be able to haul some lithium batteries in there that will provide electricity in the event that you want to use the area. Just drive a new electric pickup truck in there. It sounds like they're going to have ample power for such things. It's the last open space inside that park that's used by people, animals, everything. Putting a pavilion there removes that open space. Say options would be other locations. The Lions Club could partner with the American Legion. They could replace the pavilion at that location. It's out of floods. It's out of harm's way from the creek and flooding, and it's just a more suitable location for something that's going to cost us much money.
Okay. Anybody else? Andy and then Kevin.
Yeah, I think that this facility needs to happen in Cross Plains at that particular location. What we don't know yet is what the facility is going to look like and exactly where it's going to be located and what impact it's going to have on being within which particular flood zone. And definitely the primary concern should be the health and management of Black Earth Creek. And so I'm just hopeful that we can do it in a way that's going to ensure the longevity of that park and the watershed.
Kevin?
Yeah, we've been working on this one a long time too, and I'm excited to see it this far. And I give credit to the Lions and Bill at the village to come up with a crafty way, an agreement to see this forward finally. So kudos to you all.
Right. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Thuzius,
Yes.
trustee Brochus,
Yes.
trustee Kettlebaiter,
Yes.
trustee Hartman,
Yes.
trustee Paul Mikowski,
No.
trustee Brunner,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. All right, number 6, discussion and possible action regarding a request from Horizon Investment Associations to conduct blasting at Scenic Valley.
I'm gonna have Brian take the lead here on this presentation. We did receive a request from Scenic Valley to blast in what is the old quarry area or lot 50, 45 A and B.
Thank you. The memo that I prepared for the board is hopefully fairly self-explanatory, but some highlights there are, as Bill mentioned, there's the old quarry operation that had been covered and buried as a spoil spot for years and years and years. The developer's intention was to remove those materials, to create the bottom of the bowl, if you will, for a mini storage. They found that the toe wall there extended a little close to what they were going to be building and would like to make the bowl a little bigger from the inside, essentially. The developer engaged SX Blasting, and I believe they may be on the call tonight, to perform the work. They approached the village in the fall, and we advised them, probably not, unless you come back with some better information and some references. That information was provided to Jerry and I and Bill. I did talk with Village of McFarland, in which this company has done blasting adjacent to residential homes, and found that that experience was very positive from the village. I do not know much about blast charge sizes and spacing and those sorts of things, so I'm not going to be able to provide much advice in that regard, but it did appear to be a very reputable operation. They did provide some fairly detailed materials. They have been in touch with some of the residents immediately east. So some of you may have heard those folks already being contacted about questions about setting up pre-blast inspections. And the contractor is requesting permission to proceed with their operation. I did add a few bullets to the bottom of my memo that I'd recommend that be part of a potential approval if that's where the board's headed. One is to provide insurance certificate listing the village as additional insured. The other is to provide a lot of detail on when the blastings are going to happen. Are they going to be for a 6-hour period or 6-minute period over 2 days or 40 days? And continue to require SX Blasting to be the official communicator with all the residents so that you all aren't handling that operation on your own.
I got just a historical question. When they were actually blasting, were there houses there? When they were not in their new, but this part that's now been dormant for a while, was it active when those houses were there? Or is this something going to be new where they blasted everything and then they closed that part of the mine down, then the houses went in and you see what the timing of it?
Sure. For the McFarland experience, that was just last year and those houses were.
No, I got water.
Right, for Cross Plains, I am not sure, is Jerry on the chance?
Yeah, Jerry.
Do you know that, Jerry?
When the whole filter subdivision was developed, that was about the time of the transition from Bainen's running the pit to when Wingra purchased the property to the south and started. So the houses at the very north end of the whole filter development, Gills Way, Tilda Trail, no, it wasn't. There was no blasting real close to those. But Jay, as you remember when we were up there, the Wingra line is really maybe 500 feet from the north end of the bluff, 600, something like that. So they have had exposure, yes.
Okay, Michael and Judy.
What is a pre-blast inspection and how thorough is it? What are they looking for? Is there a post-blast inspection then at all or anything?
I do not know. I had gotten a message from the SX Blasting folks at the start of the meeting that they were on the meeting and ready to answer.
Yeah, I believe Brandon is on the.
Yeah, this is Brandon with SX Blasting. For our pre-blast inspection, we send a letter to the homeowner, property owner, and we give them a site authorization form to give us permission to come onto their property. If they deny it, we obviously can't make them sign it, but it's nice for us to get a signature. That way, if all of a sudden they claim there was damage, now we have no way to prove it. And if they give us the denial letter, but the pre-blast inspection will go in, one of our safety managers with a video camera and flashlight, and we will inspect basement, foundations, cracks, doorways, ceilings. We'll try to get everything documented. So that way, if there is an issue, we can go back, if the homeowner has a general idea of the date, we can look at our seismograph readings to see how the readings were. And then any homeowner has every right to ask for a post-blast inspection. That is entirely up to them. If we do not have a claim, we normally do not do a post-blast inspection. So that's kind of how we go about the inspections.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I just want to verify. So all the people on Gills Way, well, not Tilda, on Gills Way have already been notified that this is what they're thinking about doing?
No.
No, so they.
No, this is the map that I created to show who would get pre-blast inspections done within a certain, within the, that were the closer, and then the red tabs, though they would just get a notification letter stating that we'll be blasting in the area. Because normally we do a 250-foot radius for pre-blast inspections, and outside of that, within 300 or so, depending on the job, we just send just a notification letter that, hey, you might hear some noise, and this is what's going on in the area.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I got a couple of questions. One, we don't approve it when Wingra blast, or didn't.
They already have the permit.
They already have the permit. Okay, thank you. Secondly, after the blasting, what is left there at the wall? Is it going to be a shear wall, or will it be tapered? Does anybody know that answer?
That's going to be up to the contractor. I don't know what they want to do, if they want to run like a 2-to-1, or if they want to do some kind of slope. I'm not positive what their overall plan is for after the blasting would be done.
And then last question, I thought it was going to all happen at one time, but something you said, Brandon, made it sound like it would be happening at different times, different dates.
Yes, absolutely. With the amount of holes and the overall depth, cuts are ranging from approximately 25 to 55 foot deep, and we're roughly, like it shows there, the 496 plus another 194 feet long. We have a few different scenarios, because obviously if we took the whole 55-foot bench, that's a lot of powder. We were talking about breaking the bench in half. So shooting, let's say 25 feet and then breaking that into two where we put a couple decks in to minimize our pounds per delay, to minimize vibrations. So we have a few different scenarios that we could do. I mean, we look at our seismographs after every blast, them give us lots of data to see how our blast is, to see how it's going and see if we have to make changes or not.
I guess I'd follow up just to the board here. Thank you, Brendan. That we have conservancy land right there, and I'm just a little concerned about having conservancy land adjacent to a steep wall, whatever that might be, 10, 20, 50 feet.
I can just tell you they sloped it currently.
They did, okay.
Yeah, if you go up there right
well,
now.
I guess I would ask maybe to make that request, Brian, and if we approve this, to make that request that it be sloped and not straight.
I think we can make that a condition, certainly. We have not seen what are the finish contours for here. This discussion just, would they be allowed to use blasting as an excavation tool? If yes, then our next step would be go back to Quam and say, what are your final grades? And your questions or any concerns, Kevin, be part of that.
Right, and it would come back to the board, right? The approval of that plan.
It certainly can.
I mean, I'm with Kevin on that. I don't want blasting and then they just leave it and then, the developer, somebody's got to be responsible for doing some finished product.
Oh, right, correct.
And I would like to know, I think what we're asking is to have some view of that prior to it being done.
I would simply make that part of your decision tonight. You do have an approved grading plan from a year ago,
right?
That is not been done, and that just be like they said they're going to build 5 fire hydrants. Me and Jerry make sure they build 5 fire hydrants. We can make that part of that grading plan as well. No problem.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Bill.
So what kind of material do we have between the blasting area and the houses on Gills Way? It's not bedrock. Bedrock's too far down, but is it a soft material? Is it a hard material? I mean, that's what's going to affect, the blast radius as it comes into those homes.
Yeah, it's definitely bedrock. It's elevated bedrock, certainly. I couldn't really be a good use to tell you its relative hardness. It's certainly being used in construction because it is fairly hard. It's been used on DOT projects and in fact on County Highway P in some areas. So it's not particularly soft. Brandon, I don't know, have you guys done any borings? Do you have any guidance to offer the village on that regard?
We have not done any borings yet, but when we were out there doing the drone footage, I took a drive down Gills Way and you can see the rock driving along there in the backyards of them residences. And so what we got is approximately 280 feet from the end of the blast to the backyards of the properties. And that's a pretty big chunk of solid rock between the blast area and the houses. So yeah. It's not like it's just clay or sand. There's a pretty big buffer zone of hard rock in between there.
And how long are you expecting to be blasting for?
That would all depend on if we would take it into 2 benches. If we would take it in 2 benches, obviously it would take a little longer because we'd have to blast to a certain halfway point elevation because there is a natural seam running in that rock wall and that face. And that would be a really good spot to break it into 2. And that would have to get cleaned up or get that bench cleaned off. And then we'd have to go shoot the bottom lift out to the final elevation.
So what's your best guess if you do it that route?
We got approximately 173 holes from the map, and we would probably only go 30 to 50 holes at a time and probably blast every other day. So it's all weather depending and drilling conditions. I can't really give you an exact date of how long it would take. I mean, it's.
Well, I mean, are we talking 2 years? Are we talking?
No. I would like to see it in a couple months, 2-3 months.
Okay, that's really what I was looking for. Is that guidance? Sorry.
All right, Andy?
Yeah, I'm with Bill Brochus on this one. Is there any way we can be there when this happens to watch it? Because that'd be pretty cool.
It would be awesome. It's not as dramatic as you think. And I doubt it would let us in there.
You can come out. You can come out and press the button if you want.
That's on public record. Let's go.
Call the question.
So I would make a motion to approve the request from Verizon Professional Associates to conduct blasting at Senior Village.
Also.
Okay, can we, you don't want any conditions tied?
I think it needs to come back with a more detailed plan. I don't know how you want to stay Andy.
Okay, we'll need a motion to add that language to the motion. Second.
I'll rephrase. I would make a motion to take action regarding request from Verizon Investment with conditions to conduct blasting at Senior Valley.
I say.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Thank you, Brandon.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Discussion and possible action regarding Glacier Ave Square complaint.
All right, so let me jump into this first off and then get some direction from the village board from there. So on your screen, you'll see the complaint letter that we received from the Chamber of Commerce in regards to Glacier Edge Square, primarily in regards to the condition of the current commercial units. And so, as you all know, several of them are or have been vacant, and there have been, to this point, I would say minimal action there. I do list in the summary here that we've been working, at least in the time that I've been here, with the property owners to get through some of the higher issues at this point. With the All-Star Group, there's been ongoing discussion about potentially rezoning that and bringing in someone to fill a significant portion of that lot, of those units that would be in line with how those permits are set up, in part, and with the current demand of the market. I've also had discussions with the condo association, which primarily here is on the behalf of the residential units. And they have hired an engineering firm to repair several of the decks. This would be the section above the old World of Variety commercial building. And then there has been some interest in the old World of Variety building. That whole unit itself is approximately 10,000 square feet. All of the interest in that unit has at this time fizzled out. And so, we've been paying attention to what they're trying to do there. And I know that the real estate agent there and the owner is pushing hard to try to get that place sold. And then, there's a section in here that I've included as part of your document, redevelopment plan that I believe was adopted by the village in 2017. I don't know if this plan was also adopted into the comprehensive plan. I did not see anything of that nature, but moving forward from here and responding, potentially providing a response to the chamber to this complaint letter, there are several different routes that the village can take. I did reach out to Paul, and I believe Paul Johnson is with us on Zoom. about, going the enforcement angle on this. And I think the first thing that we will need to do is have a building inspector go out to see if this area is actually in violation of that ordinance. So that would be ordinance number 24. And having to do with property maintenance. The other thing that we will continue to do is work with the property owners to see if we can bring or redevelop this area. It is challenging, as you know, with current times as they are, in commercial lots and commercial real estate. I think there needs to be a commitment from the village board here to stick with the implementation of the 2017 plan. First of all, updating that plan to current, and then to implement that plan. If you read through the plan itself, it does have quite a few good recommendations there. I think the issue was once it got adopted, there wasn't necessarily one person or a task force to bring that to fruit. So you'll see my recommendations there. One, authorize the building inspector to actually conduct an inspection to see where we are from an enforcement angle. Two, continue to work with the property owners to proactively seek the rezoning that's needed. It is a challenge here because of the rezoning process and the need to involve through a public hearing all of the property owners. And so in this situation, it would be all of the condo owners and then whoever would hold interest through that HOA. I would also recommend a task force to review and update the Glacier's Edge Square redevelopment plan and prepare for implementation. Re-adopt the plan, adopt it into the comprehensive plan, and then lastly, but most importantly, implement the plan.
All right, Judy.
And do I understand, like, so like where the subway, those are owned by one person, but like the World of Variety are owned by a different person?
That's
right?
correct.
So
Yep. So it's two different. So when we talk about the commercial units, those are different owners, and then you have all the condos on top, which are individual owners. And then you have another layer of the HOA, which then you get into private property and tenant and home ownership rights, mixed with commercial rights, and all of the above. And then we have a village park in the middle of that. So it's many layers to
All right. Doug, what is the status of the box for Nanny Love building? Is that
what?
The status of that building number 4? The Nanny Love box fort thing?
So that is not a part of Glacier's Edge Square.
So it's not connected at all.
It does show in the redevelopment plan, because I believe the redevelopment plan took a look at the whole block. Okay. So that's why it's included in that plan. But I don't believe this particular complaint covers that, but it does need to be addressed also.
All right, any other questions? I guess I'll need a motion on what this board would like to do.
I mean, yeah, I have a question. What has gone on since 2017 with the plan that we're looking at and where we are today with this complaint from?
I sat on a shelf, that's what a lot of.
Can I get some history on it?
Go ahead, Michael.
I was on the board when the plan was adopted, and I think what happened was the village got a grant from Dane County on here, if you notice on the front page, to do this redevelopment bit. And so they did that, and the plan, in order to get the grant money from the county, the plan had to be approved by the village board, and then it was put on the shelf because the board at that time wasn't interested in funding any of the plan or looking at it, is basically what happened. And then the flood happened in 2018, and it got even more forgotten.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Well, I think we should, let's just take baby steps on this. I think before we put a committee together, I think the first step is let's get a building inspector there that really has knowledge of it, and hopefully he can give us a report on really the conditions of it. And I would think that would be our starting point for trying to improve it.
Maybe another starting point would be just to make a motion to acknowledge, I'm in full agreement with the chamber's note. I think it's an actual do something about it. If that will help along
Well,
an inspection.
I guess I want an action. I mean, we can say that. I think almost everybody in this room as a village think it's not a really nice commercial development right there. But I think we can say that, but I think what people are asking for us to do at least some action points. So I think the bare minimum we should bring an inspector. I have Bill and Kevin.
We have Jerry with his hand raised. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Go ahead, Jerry.
As some of you may know, I was a building inspector for quite a few years, and while there may be a few technical violations of the state building code, most of what has been described in the comments that I've heard tonight are aesthetic issues, and the building inspector really has no powers over that. So you may want to look to the village ordinance on property maintenance to address those.
Okay, thank you. Kevin?
I'll make a motion that follow the first two recommendations here from staff, which are the village board is authorized building inspector to conduct an inspection, and I would include in that any village building maintenance ordinances as well. And that village staff work with the property owner to consider proactively rezoning the property for a better fit as related to the comp plan, redevelopment plan, and interest for filling the space.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Michael?
So this is how we're starting it. My question is, what are, like what he's talking about, the maintenance, like what are our powers to even work to improve this area? That was.
Well, if it's an ordinance, then we have the court, the municipal court citations and stuff.
Yeah, so I can explain that. So the ordinance under the property maintenance section of the village code of ordinances authorizes the building inspector to conduct this type of inspection. Based upon the criteria that's written into the ordinance, he would make his assessment off of that. There would be some kind of notice to the property owners and or tenants to remedy the issues that were found in that inspection. They would have a certain amount of time to remedy that issue. And if it does not get remedied, then the village could take action at that time to remedy the issue.
Right.
Generally, that's the process. And then charging that back on, you know, there's a couple of different things going on here. Again, we really need to figure out, you know, who are we, you know, asking to remedy the issue? Is it the property owner or is it a tenant issue? What do their associations and bylaws say about whose responsibility is what, et cetera? And so we just want to make sure that we navigate that properly.
But we might have limited abilities if it's an aesthetic issue. Let's have to see what happens. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So otherwise we have a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved. All right, number 8, discussion and possible action regarding well number 2 layout.
Want to take this one or Brian?
I think I can get it started and Evan can hop in. So the Parks, Recreation, and Conservancy Committee did take this up last Monday evening to look at options for well restrooms at Bear Park. They unanimously did choose option A, as was provided in your packet or exhibit A, with the addition of urinals being added to each of those restrooms. Their thought was, we understand how boys and or men from time to time use the restroom facilities, and we didn't feel that it may be best to not have an option there for that. which would add more cleanup and things and probably more complaints. And the other thing that they were asking for was the bubbler to be pushed outside the pavilion area so that more out in the open in the park along the path so that people could access it without having to go up through a party or whatever was happening there. So the addition of the urinals, as I was discussing, does add a little bit of space needed for the construction of the project. But it is within the pavilion layout of what option one was. So. Anything else Evan would like to add to that?
I think you covered most of it. Again, my name's Evan. Just to piggyback off what Mike said, we have to add these bathrooms because we're taking up some chemical and electrical space that's part of the well house where the restrooms are now. So a month ago, we all visited a few of these alternatives. And again, as Mike said, went to parks and this is the direction we headed. I think, Bill, a couple pages down, the third one does now show what that would look like with the parks recommendations included. So
this would be exhibit C then?
C, yes, okay. Yes. And we are still trending towards a June 30th submittal to the DNR so that this gets included as part of the overall water system upgrades project funded by Safe Drinking Water Fund through the DNR.
All right, can I just, for Mike's clarification, it's exhibit C you want with the water fountain on the park side.
Correct. Probably not where it's located on the map, but yes. I mean, those things can be discussed
Right.
there, but yeah, off the, not on the building like it was before.
I'll make a motion to accept exhibit C for the park.
So I have a motion and a second to approve exhibit C of the Bear Park restroom facility. I guess, and well 2 facility that includes the restroom. All right, well, got it open for discussion. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, before when we were talking about when we were having a separate building, the maintenance was required to be able to drain the toilets in the wintertime. Correct. Something was brought up about that. Now, my question is, if those, so I guess my question is currently with the bathrooms being inside the building, are they drained in the wintertime now?
Yes, so it's not shown on that because we've already taken a wall out, but that electrical room actually we're going to take out of a wall in what's shown as electrical room, which is currently the same theory as there. There's a maintenance hallway to winterize right between the 2 restrooms currently. So kind of where that horizontal line is in the electrical room is essentially what's a maintenance closet right now. Because electrical needs more space than chemical, we're enlarging that room.
Right, but right now the current ones are drained. That's
yes.
Right. Yeah, nothing changes in regards to maintenance parts of the building, whether or not, no matter how we put it together. That's how the maintenance. There's a maintenance hallway in between the 4 set, just like there is. Actually, it's larger to allow for easier access to it to do the drainage.
Okay, that was my question, because my question was if they were attached to the building, would you need such a large maintenance thing to do drainage? Was kind of what I was driving at.
Between maintenance and then also storage for toiletries and things, you'll need that's the designated space.
I just wasn't sure if there was an advantage.
All right, Judy.
Is there like a time frame where they're locked at night? How will we do this? Are they automatic or are they open 24 hours?
Those are open 24 hours.
Thank you.
Anything else on discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So move. All right, number 9, discussion and possible action regarding engineering services for water system upgrade.
Me again. So the preliminary design scope that was included as part of the impact fee study test well, that design package, we're at the tail end of that right now and transitioning into final design. So what I've got in your packets on 212 is a scope of services to get us through design and bidding for design, bidding, and construction of contract A, which is the well drilling at well 3. We do that one a little bit faster so that we can drill the well, get our test pumping results, and if there's anything that comes of that test pumping, still have time to include that into contract B, which is then the well house construction as well as well 2, which you just discussed. Reason we do it that way is instead of finding out a surprise during construction and paying markup on a change order, we can accommodate that at the tail end of design for contract B. So what this scope covers again is design and bidding and construction of the drilling of the well, and then design and bidding of the well house and water system upgrade project as a whole. And then I would anticipate after that bid goes out sometime in the late winter or early 22, come back with a little bit better definition on construction admin for that contract B. So a little bit of moving parts here, but again, this will get us long ways through the process up to the bidding phase of contract B. And we have in there a estimated hourly rate of $165,000. This also notes some new estimates for the contract A and contract B scope. We're anticipating the well drilling around $250,000, and then contract B about just over $2.5 million for the 2 well houses, and that also includes SCADA upgrades village wide, so that you have a continuously communicating system and replacing the obsolete parts that are on borrowed time already.
I'll make a motion that we approve the engineering scope for well 3 as it's documented in the agenda.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second, open up for discussion. I just have one question, because I'm guessing this number will then fall into 10 for the application for the loan. So yes. I'm going to address this right now. Are we putting in the $500,000 that we need to spend on painting the reservoir into this loan application, so we don't have to go back a second time and then raise water rates again? I know we had some discussion on that, so I'm wondering if it's in, and if it's not in, why we're not doing it, since we have to spend that money.
So I think there are 2 different issues here. One is the loan, and then one is the rates. So when we talk about the repainting of the reservoir in 2023, we're going to try to capture that in the rates here.
Yeah, but why? So then, how can you capture it in the rates if you're not borrowing the money? Because that's where it's the debt service that you're going to capture into the rate. Unless we're doing cash and we're doing it that way. But that's all I can.
Yeah. So to Bill's point, the rate study that you're doing right now is going to come up with a financial vehicle by which to pay for both this project, the wells, SCADA improvements, and the reservoir painting. This project, this engineering scope, is just for the wells. It will get included in the next agenda items, which are going to be your safe drinking water loan applications. That specific safe drinking water loan application is only and can only be for the wells and the SCADA, because that's how you score. If the village desires to apply for a safe drinking water fund loan to fund separately the painting, that would be another loan application, because we're a little ahead of ourselves on timing. So you could apply for that. I will tell you that DNR is not real keen on safe drinking water loans funds being used for painting, because they view painting as a never-ending ongoing maintenance thing that everybody has to do. You're not special in that. You are special in that you need more water and more reliable water. So they get a little hung up on what is the service life of the thing. Their loans are for 19 years, 20 years, and they get a little queasy about that. So I'm not positive that we'd be successful in getting safe drinking water loans for the painting, but you could using your new rates, secure financing from somebody for the painting.
But it's a DNR requirement that we have to pay.
Yeah, they'd love to get you both ways,
But they won't let us borrow money.
yeah, but for specifically the resolutions coming up, that's for an application called well and skate improvement.
All right, I understand that. I see. All right, so I have a motion. Okay, you got a question?
So then you could borrow from somebody else for the painting using the increased rates that, because you're gonna have a net revenue source.
Yeah, a bank, a bonding company.
All right, I didn't want to get off, but I just wanted to make sure we didn't have to go back. All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the engineering services for the water system upgrade. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Number 10, discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 2021-08, appointing an authorized representative to file application for financial assistance from State of Wisconsin Environmental Improvement Fund. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-09, 2021-08.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, discussion. Anybody have any questions? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. So move. Number 11. Discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 2021-09, declaration of official intent to reimburse expenditures for safe drinking water loan program.
I'll make a motion.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion on resolution 2021-09. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. Thank you very much, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, we're going to number 12. I don't know, Bill, do you want me to go through it or do you want to go through it?
Go ahead and take the lead.
Sure. So it was requested that we do some research and at least the first steps of looking at replacement of Village Hall Police Department. Bill and I put together a fact sheet. Again, you have the objective that was expressed at the meeting. A little bit of history on the studies that have been done. This topic. Then the justification. These justifications are not something Bill and I did sit down and just come up. We pretty much took them out of the 2013 study. We just combined them all so it's easier to see them in one location, building a nice job, and highlighting the ones that carry over to both sides. So it's not a lot of repetitiveness, but you can see that there's major deficits in our Village Hall and Police Department. And then we did a cost estimate. I basically used the cost estimates from at least the square footage from 2013. Staff had an opportunity to view that and asked if that was still pretty much on course on what they needed. It seems like it is. I called the architect that worked with me on the police station. I asked him what the rate was going for building, office buildings, and since I just did the police department, he said it was about 251 a square foot. The big thing that, and it's just a big estimate. It's not like we went down and did numbers. And it really depends on how much uniqueness that you need extra labor for. That's the key that he said in having this rate go higher. So if you look at the construction, I used the numbers from 2013 with the new cost, and it comes to basically $4,725,000. And again, these are very rough numbers. They might be in it could easily be up or down $500,000, probably depending on what we choose and what else we can do. So the borrowing costs, I just took that number and looked at 2.5%, 3% rate, 20 years, and it gives you the payment. I went anywhere from $3.5 million up to $4.7 million. It gives you an idea of what the yearly cost would be. And then the next one is the debt service. Went down and looked at the next 6 years, what our debt service, if we don't borrow anything, this is what our debt service would look like. Of course, we're going to have to borrow some, but as you can see, there is a significant drop in 2025, even a pretty good drop in 2023 on our debt service. So that is certainly something to look through. And then you look at other revenues. If we choose not to build on the current site, that would be available for selling. Again, I just threw a number out there. Could be high, could be low. I don't know what would happen on that. If the project is put into the TID district, the equalized value of our TID to the village is 15%. So you're allowed to spend the 15%. So I took the 15%, and that would be about $700,000 that TID could put towards this. And then there's there could be fundraising for some of the soft costs. We might even think about selling the rights to the community room or something like that. Just ideas out there that there could be some way of bringing in some funding. There might be some grant for some of the specialized equipment that the police department might need or we would want to use. We did not attach the sites. That will come at hopefully the next meeting. We have pulled the data together, but because some of them are on private property, we want to do that in closed session and have a good discussion on what direction we may want to go. So the actual locations, I think we had about 7 of them located with some facts on each one, and we'll do that in closed session. So that I would wait to make any decision on the next steps. I'd like that step completed before we talk about the next step. But this is information to start for you to look at and think about and what you would be comfortable with. And then we do have to decide the next step on, once we've done the location, do we put a group together? Do we put multiple groups together? At what point do we bring in paid professionals? So those are discussions that we'll have to do later on. But I wanted to get this out so people start to think about it and see, and also get it out into the community to know, some of the justifications on the need. Bill, would you like to add anything to this?
No, I think you covered it well. And we'll wait to have that conversation prior to the next steps.
Okay. Are there any questions? And just so staff knows too, we'll be bringing this to staff at your June staff meeting. So,
hey Jay.
Yes, Bill.
So, this is something I wanted to bring to this agenda, and I appreciate you doing all the work that you did. This is great. One of the reason I wanted to bring this up now is because, as you pointed out, there's a lot of work to be done and decisions to be made. And I don't want to rush this as like we have to get this done now within a year, right? I want us to be able to take our time, do our due diligence and then decide, one of the things I want us to decide as we're kind of going through this process is, do we save up some money for this or do we borrow it all? And, that's going to depend on the economy and all that. But, that's one of the considerations I'd like us to look at is when we're talking about processes and schedules and paying for this is, so what are other options other than what you have noted on this document?
Oh, I agree 100% on that. This is, again, a starting point, but I think it's helpful to at least have a skeleton out there. And certainly there are, yes, this is not total. I'm hoping people come up with other ideas. Any other? Michael?
I just want to say one thing. When you hear talk about the current debt schedule and the payment of principal and interest on the general obligation debt, not all of that is on the tax levy because that is including what the TID owes. Just like,
yeah, I understand that,
but just so that amount isn't all on the tax levy.
No, I understand that, but we need a starting point, and I think we can get complicated and do all that, but the bottom line is this is the numbers that you pull out of your audit.
Yeah.
So, how that's divided, you're absolutely correct. What's coming off the tax levy is very different than what the true cost is. Correct. All right, any other comments on this? So I would ask that, I believe the June meeting, we're going to go to closed session for the location part. And hopefully when we come out, we can have a discussion of next steps. So kind of think about that. All right. Very good. Thank you. All right. Discussion and possible action regarding COVID-19 pandemic policy. Bill, I'll let you run with this one.
Yeah, so as you all may have heard, Dane County is moving to not extend current public health order when it expires on June 2nd. With that, Dane County has put out some what I would say loose guidance on how to proceed within our community. One of the items that they recommend that the village do is to review the policies that were in place or are in place currently under the order and to see which ones make sense continuing forward with and or where potential deficiencies are. And that would we need additional policy to enforce. And so if you haven't heard yet, again, the order will cease to exist on June 2nd with recommendations for masking until further notice. That being said, I did go through and I did list the current policies that we have in place for in reaction to the pandemic. The first listed here is the continuity of operations plan. If you remember back, we had this in place in case an essential employee or department head did get sick. We know who that chain of command is and who would take the lead role in those situations. We had a cleaning policy, we had a hygiene policy, a protected measure policy, and within, I believe the hygiene policy was an employee illness policy. That pretty much stated, if you get sick or have these symptoms, for that employee to stay home and essentially not come to work. The last item listed on here, where policy is resolution 2021-03, which was extending the emergency paid sick leave to related COVID-19 issues. So if you got sick or if you showed symptoms and you needed time away from work, instead of using what would be regular sick time, you were offered this emergency paid sick leave. And so if you remember, that does run out here at the end of June, I believe. So looking at some of the guidance material from Dane County here, they do go through most of our policies. They do recommend retaining the policies that we have in place for hygiene, for cleaning, protective measures. Excuse me, not protective measures, but you know, they do ask the question of you know, should the organization be considering a workplace policy on masking? We have a challenging workplace in that we do see a lot of public come in and out. But again, at this time, Madison Dane County Public Health is only recommending. We did speak with our attorney on this. Within municipal buildings, we could potentially require a masking policy. It's not something that we necessarily have to follow the county on. However, it has been our history in our past year in this pandemic to follow what the county has said. So I think that needs to be a point of discussion, and then similarly discussing future public meetings. I know a lot of my colleagues, peers in other cities and villages are discussing what the public meeting policy is. A lot of them had stayed in virtual and are now only moving to in person. As you see, we've done that a lot earlier than other communities. They are also now exploring what we call a hybrid version, where you potentially have both online and in person. Again, we've tried some of that here, but overall, we do still have to follow open meeting rules as we go through it. But yeah, so a lot of things to consider here for the village board, and some guidance would be great for the staff here moving forward after June 2nd.
All right, I would like to kind of focus, I think the priority one that obviously is out there political is masking. So I'd like to start with that on what board members feel we should have for masking at our meetings.
Can I start?
Andy, okay, Andy, then Bill, then Judy.
Yeah, I don't think masking should be political, but you know, I mean, it's public health, and so even if COVID didn't exist, you know, masking is just a better way to live life, where people don't get sick as often, and so I think there's a benefit to it. You know, East Asian countries have been doing it since bird flu in 2002, and they have a lot lower rates of flu and colds. I mean, they're just doing it out of the courtesy of the community, and so I don't think we should politicize something that's just public safety. And so I would advocate for that continuing in this setting, and just leading by example. It's not about, you know, like, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, Bill, then Judy.
All right, so it is not our responsibility to keep everybody safe. That is not the purpose of government. All right, and Jay, you mentioned this last month that you're comfortable wearing a mask, and even when the mask mandate goes away, you'll probably continue to wear a mask when you feel that you need to. And I think individuals can make that decision upon themselves, even for village board meetings. If you're comfortable wearing a mask, feel free to wear a mask. If you do not feel like you need to wear a mask, then I don't think we should be telling people to put on a mask. So I am not in favor of a mask policy of requiring people to have a mask on. I think it is based off of our Constitution and our beliefs that it's the person's responsibility, not the responsibility of government.
Okay, Judy.
Actually, ditto to what Bill just said. Because really, I think it's a respect thing. I'll respect people if they want to wear their mask, but I'll also respect people if they don't want to wear their mask. I think it is a personal issue after the government washes away. So I think it's a personal issue.
Yeah, I'll agree with Andy and Jay. I don't think we're there yet to take masks away in a public meeting and setting. I think we should lead by example. I do think safety is a part of our goal, which surprised a little bit here that it's not, but I think we set an example. I'm not saying in September or January 1st or something that the masks will go away, but it's our Dane County order is still until June 2nd. I think it would be prudent to continue with the hybrid model and have masks for in-person.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're talking about after June 2nd. We're clearly going to follow.
Correct, but I'm also saying,
no, I agree.
We're not there yet. There's still some science. There's still a lot of people that need to be vaccinated.
Okay. Michael?
I agree with Doug and Andy. I think it's a little early. We need to just wait for more people to become vaccinated. I support the mask for after June 2nd.
Ellen?
Nothing to add.
All right, Andy?
I mean, what a great opportunity to raise a bunch of money for the village by selling some masks to people. I don't know. Or for organizations like the Chamber of Commerce or Piggly Wiggly or I don't know, you know?
Okay, so I am hearing, and we'll it is an action item. I think we need to have a motion, and I'm open to however someone wants to word it, but let's stick on the mask if we're going to require masks at our meetings. We have a motion one way or the other.
And is it this meeting or is it all village meetings? Like if other committees are meeting in person, they'd have to wear masks.
Yeah, it would be for every, okay, hold it, Michael.
And my other question would be extending that then to programming, you know, everything that's kind of happening indoors, Rec Connect programs. I'm getting a lot of questions regarding that. Obviously, kids are not vaccinated.
Well, can we kind of, because that one is a little different. It is, but you know, because they've opened it up for 350 now for indoors. That's my understanding. So yes, I don't want to be stricter than.
But masks are still mandatory indoors, whereas now the mask mandatory will be gone.
Outdoors.
Outdoors is fine.
Yeah.
Indoors, though, currently it's still recommended or still required for masking. But June 2nd, that takes away, just like you're talking about here. So it'd be great to have the same policy one way or the other, based on all of that for all, you know, government functions or recreation.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I'm not, the science doesn't necessarily agree with that, especially with young children, because there's under 12 that can't even get vaccines. So you're basically saying they have to wear a mask all the time. You know, so I
don't have a problem with it. We haven't had any issues with the kids having problems.
I'd like to kind of, I hear that you're saying it's the same, but I kind of would like to keep it separate so we can take this in baby steps. So I have the chief, and then I heard Bill wanting to speak.
I would just want clarification for inside buildings. So, you know, with regards to meetings, I get, and I you know, but how about people coming into our building as we open up? People are going to want to come in. We don't want to get into it where people aren't coming in for services because they don't. I think we need to have a little direction as to what we're going to do with people at the door in our buildings.
Okay, Bill.
So the CDC has said that if you are vaccinated, you do not need to wear a mask inside. And then they have science to back that up. So why are we going against the science? I don't know if it's a feel-good thing or because I don't know, understand why you guys are saying we don't have enough information or it's too soon to take the mask off when the CDC said we can take the mask off.
No, Bill, you correctly said it. I don't want to get into business and asking if people have been vaccinated.
I agree with that.
The CDC
that is not our role.
Says if you're vaccinated, but what we have to do is you also have to look at right now only 45% of Wisconsin is vaccinated.
68% of Dane County is
vaccinated.
63 or 68% of Dane County is vaccinated. We're the highest county in the country that's vaccinated.
We're also a tourist destination, Bill. So people are coming into our county who aren't vaccinated.
Not to a village hall meeting.
I mean, you're splitting hairs here, buddy.
I mean, we're talking about masks for meetings.
We're talking about leading by example, as politicians should do to their community.
We're talking about masks for meetings. That's what the topic is on.
Right, masks for meetings, but I think we can throw in the meetings when people come to Village Hall. So I think those two are tight. I have Judy.
Of course, I'm not gonna vote for it, but if you do it, I do think you have to lead, if you want to lead by examples, it's good for every meeting then. I think it's a whole village board thing, it's a whole village thing. So it's at the rec meetings, it's at every meeting.
Yep.
It's not just this meeting, and it is in the hall, it's at the police meetings. I think you're opening up a whole can of worms that you guys think you're smarter than.
No, that's why I topped it out with this. It has, the topic has become political. I think you either, and that's why they left it. I don't think everybody is vaccinated, so you can't hook on that. We don't have anybody saying we have herd immunity yet. So, you know, I personally can go either way on this, if it's optional or required. So just so you know, I'm not pushing one way or the other. I believe masks are important, and Bill and I have had this conversation. Yeah, I like to wear it all the time because I haven't got a cold in 2 years, and I usually get 1 or 2 every year. So it is definitely, and I think contact is different, but that's just my personal choice. But we as a group have to set policy. That's our job, is to set policy. So right now, we need to look at policies for holding meetings and having people come into City Hall. Doug and then Andy.
I think the policy, whether it's another 30 days or 90 days, possibly gets looked at when school comes back into session, when more people are vaccinated or herd immunity gets hit. I think the prudent and safe thing to do is to have masks required right now, and then perhaps we can go to optional September 1st, October 1st. I'm open to following certain things that I may not necessarily 100% agree with to set a good example and to be safe.
Andy?
Not a lot to add, but yeah, I think what's the risk of just prolonging the traditional wearing masks? There's no harm in it, especially from us with our community.
All right, so do I have a motion? Did we have a motion? I don't think we did. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we make mask optional for meetings.
I'll second that.
That's right. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly disagree with an optional mask policy for any meetings in the village of Cross Plains, because it sets a bad example for everybody in the rest of our community.
All right, let's take a roll call vote.
Trustee Brochus.
Yes.
Trustee Thuzius.
No.
Trustee Brunner.
No.
Trustee Paul Mikowski.
No.
Trustee Hartman.
No.
Trustee Calbater.
Yes.
President Langfeld.
No. All right, so can I have a motion the other way?
Yes, I'll make a motion to continue with the mask policy for meetings at this time.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
When, I didn't hear Doug's motion, when would this sunset?
I didn't sunset it, I said at this time.
Well,
that was going to be my suggestion that we look at it again September. I think
I'm open with amending my motion to revisit it September 1st.
I would second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to have a mask mandate for village meetings and village hall, and we will relook at it September 1st. That's the motion in the second. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Trustee Calbater.
No.
Trustee Hartman.
Yes.
Trustee Paul Mikowski.
Yes.
Trustee Brunner.
Yes.
Trustee Thuzius.
Yes.
Trustee Brochus.
Nope.
What was that?
No.
Okay, President Langfeld.
Yes. All right, so we have that. Now let's talk about Mike's situation. Are you including like the pool and stuff like that?
Yeah, indoor, when you go anytime you go.
See, I don't consider pool indoors.
The public building inside is indoor. There's no ventilation at all.
I know that people don't spend time in the pool. They go to the bathroom there and then they go out to the pool.
But the employees do.
Oh, well, okay, well, you can have the employees mask up, I guess, but I have a problem with activities that are primarily outside.
Oh, yeah, I'm more or less saying more just inside a public building still, just like.
Just like in the locker room area, and when you're changing, it's kind of awkward, and you're usually 6 feet apart from somebody who's changing into their swim trunk. So I don't know that it's necessary for people. It may be necessary for staff. I can see that because they're interacting with a lot of people who aren't vaccinated.
That to me is a policy for you guys to decide.
Masking inside of public spaces.
Your employees, yeah.
Employees, yeah, so employees, I mean, I think what we're striving to do here is be consistent kind of across the board. So, you know, whether it's employees requiring all staff to continue to stay masked until September 1st, or, you know, if they're participating in our programs indoors, you know, we're requiring that of our employees. You know, they're also interacting with people indoors, right, at programs. So the question becomes, you know, I understand the discussion outdoors, and I mean that's not a controversy at this point. But for indoor, any public facilities, do we want to be consistent with the decision that was just made right now?
Yeah, like it would include like library patrons.
Yep.
People.
Oh, yeah.
Like things like that.
Oh, that,
So
yeah. Okay.
Believe we have. We're gonna, if you wanna do it, it's every.
Great, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
And then I want to referendum on it because it's gonna tick off people, but that's okay.
Well, hold on. The library has their own board and they have their own rules. So we can't dictate what the library does.
I don't think we have to worry about library making the right decision on this one personally, Bill.
I agree. But I'm just saying, well, the library came up and we don't have jurisdiction over that.
So, you know, I think a place that comes up, you know, of Mike's concern is we have programming at Northwest.
Well, I'm not really worried about Northwest Dane, as Northwest Dane have their own right decision on that. Where I have, in which we have had discussions on, obviously we're with older population there. We've had discussions between us, but it's more of like, how does the village board, you know, how do you align, or how do you want to see us align in regards to masks in that property, or on that while we're using that property, or when we're using restrooms, when they're using restrooms at the parks and things. Prior to this, is what I'm getting at, is masks were mandatory. I have a case either way in regards to where I'm at. I'm more asking where we want to see masks go while we're inside a public building, because that is how it's been given to us, you know, for the last year or so.
I know, but I guess if you have archery out there and a child says, I have to go to the bathroom, I don't know why we just don't let them go. I just don't understand why we have to mask them out to go to the bathroom. They just go. The activity is outside. You know,
the germs are inside.
Huh?
The germs though will be inside. That's what I'm.
The person before them might have coughed a lot when they were in the bathroom.
Oh, it's, I mean, kids, right?
What's that?
Kids.
You do realize that it's 0.03% of population from 25 to 0 will ever die from COVID. 0.03%. That is a very, very, very low percentage number.
Right, but we're worried about the senior citizens that are the primary people who
I totally understand about senior citizens because they have a much higher percentage, right? But we're talking kids in a kid environment without adults. You don't have any science that says the kids need to mask up.
Agree with that wholeheartedly with the amount of quarantine that I've seen at Middleton High School alone, which is 188 currently. So.
All right. So it seems like people want to keep this for all village activities. Is that what I'm hearing?
There is a point to be brought up though, about being the mask police. Nobody wants to be in that position if it's not mandated by Dane County or the state of Wisconsin or whoever to constantly be saying, you can't come into my establishment or you can't use our facilities unless you have a mask on. Like, I get that. So how do we address that problem?
I think it's very clear. I mean, they've allowed private. There are restaurants that are not allowing people in. There are a lot of restaurants and even sporting events that you have to show you've been vaccinated. Then you get into a special place and stuff. So, I mean, we're not alone on this, and I don't think we're out in, being extremely restrictive. I think this is very reasonable what we're talking about. I personally have a problem with, an outdoor activity and you're having a mask because they might have to go inside to go to the bathroom. I think that's a little far, but if everybody thinks it has to be that way across the board, I'll go with that on that side. That doesn't seem reasonable.
So what about people that are just up at Bear Park, watching baseball, and they go into the shelter?
See, that's my point. I think we're getting they're at Bear Park, they're outside, they don't need a mask. If they have to go to the bathroom, they go to the bathroom, and I don't think they need a mask on.
We're talking about like village, municipal events that have village employees and officials, right?
No. He was talking about home talent. There's nothing to do. They rent that field from us. They go play baseball. They have their own rules. It's an outdoor activity, and I think everybody's agreed that you don't need masks for outdoor activity.
But what we're talking about right now is personnel who work for the village or are employed by the village.
Well, Mike is trying to he just brought up the whole thing with watching baseball, then going to the bathroom, should they need masks up? I say no. Bill?
I think we can go back and forth all night on this issue. Obviously, I think we understand the general direction that the village board wants to go. I want to get an opportunity to sit down with staff to come up with a policy. It sounds like what we're trying to define here are whether you define it as public facilities or programming associated with city or village functions. But we need to I think we need to identify what those functions are and then associate the mask policy with those functions. Because it's hard, and Chief and Mike are right, is if we require masking policy here and we don't require it in a program, how do we navigate that? And so having something in policy, we can point exactly to it and say, hey, we're requiring it of masking.
Well, just to add the bills, I think not only to navigate it, but when will you see some liability on it? When will somebody, file a lawsuit and say at one spot they're doing this thing, at the other, I think we just want direction. I personally, I don't care which way we go, just kind of consistency and direction.
And I just give you a figure. I do not see this. I think if the activity is outdoors, it's outdoors. If the activity is indoor, it's indoor. If there's time when people go outside or time that people go to the bathroom, it's still whatever it is out there. That to me seems like very common sense, very reasonable, and easy to enforce. That, again, the danger is indoors. That's where it is. All right. So you had something else on that list. The one policy ends June 30th on the extended sick time.
Correct.
I think we just leave that go. All right, what was the other one that you had?
You can ask a clarifying question on that.
Yeah.
I mean, have we done anything to ensure that our employees of the village have had access to the vaccine?
I believe they were invited to.
Yeah, so everyone had the opportunity to get vaccinated if they wanted to.
Okay.
Okay, Julie?
Are you making them tell you if they are or not? You can't.
I'm not.
Okay, I guess the cleaning and the hygiene policy, is there any reason not to keep that? Is it an inconvenience or a major cost?
No, it's not. I mean, those are recommended. We do that anyway for the most part. I think the only one that I would probably have an issue with, or is dependent on what we decide as far as masking is the protective measures policy. It has language about masking there.
All right, I think we've got that somewhat figured out. Okay, and I think continuity of operational plan should stay no matter what. All right, Michael.
I just have a question about what our direction is on masking in terms of like Parks and Rec things that are happening, because the swim team is going to start swimming pretty soon and we don't have a policy in place, but you say you're going to go back and come back with one. We should probably set something so that it's, you know, we could set it so that it's required if you go inside any village building now and then in a month, because we're going to meet in mid-June. If they come up with a policy that's less restrictive, we could adjust it at that point. But not having one and not requiring it and then going into a requirement is going to be confusing, I think.
Yeah.
Right? If we don't have one, then it falls off. And it's going to be difficult to get back into it.
Okay, I'm not, okay. So what is your suggestion? I
would suggest there, if there would be a motion and we'll just go.
Well, we have a motion and we passed already to wear masks. To me, that's done right.
You said for your meetings, you wanted to break it off.
And right, in village hall and, yeah.
Village board meetings, committee meetings.
And I think, and any activities that are indoors.
Okay, so does somebody need to make a new motion for that?
That's where, okay, we need a motion for activities that are indoors.
Okay, fine. Someone can do a motion for it.
Is that
what's considered an activity? Because now I'm not even joking, because that's what we're gonna get into as we discuss is when they go indoors then to the bathhouse, because all I've just heard is that we're not going.
The wording is if the activity is indoors. So the swim team is outdoors. Do they go indoors at times? Yes, but the activity is an outdoor activity. Just like when we did flag football, it's an outdoor activity, but if someone has to go to the bathroom, they go in and go to the bathroom, they come back out. To me, you don't need a mask. That's to keep it simple. Parents know, kids know, your staff should know. It's whatever the activity is.
Isn't that the current policy though, that we currently have with masks, is to just have people wear masks? Because that's what it is right now?
No, that's not what it is. Outdoor activity, you do not have to wear a mask.
So currently though,
currently that doesn't require.
Right, so currently if someone was at the swim pool and they had to go to the bathroom, they would have to put a mask on, is that correct? Why don't we keep with that policy?
See, that's not how I read that policy, no.
It is, it's an indoor space, it has more than 2 walls, therefore you have to wear a mask. That's how the policy is written.
I would keep it as it currently is, right? I mean, and follow.
Okay, that's all right. Let's just do that, and that keeps it simple.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out a motion.
Well, the motion is to maintain the Dane County guidelines through September 1st. We might as well keep it consistent with what the other motion was. And we'll review it September 1st. That's the motion. Do I have a second?
I'd second.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I don't understand the motion, I'm sorry.
The motion is to maintain what Dane County rule is now governing indoor spaces.
Now, okay.
That was the
part that wasn't clear.
Yes. All right, any other discussion? Bill, you got anything?
So as it is today, May 24th, all the way through September 1st?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion?
And it can be adjusted earlier if we so want to, obviously.
Well, you can always bring something up. Oh. All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Trustee Kettlebaiter.
No.
Trustee Paul Mikowski.
Yes.
Trustee Hartman.
Yeah.
Trustee Brunner.
Yes.
Trustee Thuzius.
Yes.
Trustee Brochus.
Nope.
President Langfeld.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Is that everything you need right now, Bill?
That's all.
You guys good? All righty. We're going back to number 6, which is
I did forget about that.
that's the approve the use of Bear Park improvement fees to replace baseball benches in Bear Park. And I guess the reason it's coming back is you have 3 options, so.
Yeah,
We
and
have
I'm
to
good with
pick
that,
which
like
one.
it, with that discussion. So, upon inspection of the bleachers this year, we noticed, as in the pictures there, of 2, those are 2 separate ones. Broken frames and broken seats. Also, one has a broken plank on the floor. These were original from when Bear Park was built. We've done some work, I think it was 2007, we bought new seats for some of them that are up there currently to try and meet some of the standards, but I put in 3 options based on costs, obviously is a big part of that. Not really understanding that the site itself updated hourly regarding the cost of these benches, our bleachers, I'm sorry, which have increased even more each and every day due to the price of aluminum and transportation costs currently. Those have been updated. I have some updated numbers literally just from sitting here. Option A now for 4 of them is $10,216. Option B for 2 of them would be $11,140. And then option C, I can't get a complete estimate, but I'm guessing it's going to be like $12,390, I'll just say. Staff's recommendation would be to go with option C, just because that's what we currently have and what it could, could use that. Also meets ADA requirements, having a guardrail up the middle. With that, we would actually only have 2 of them that would be there, and the other 2 that we have there would be taken away. One would be put on the small diamond for this year, and the other one would be either moved up here or the planks taken off and put on the ones up here at the pool.
I make a motion to accept C.
A second.
All right, any discussion? No.
I just want to make an overall comment kind of about Bear Park. So I think it's an absolute beautiful facility and park that hasn't been kept up well. I don't think we've invested enough into keeping it up. I'm looking forward to the new bleachers. I also want to make a comment around the lights and some of the recent improvements were done on, kind of volunteer and partnership. I think that there's an opportunity a little bit more of that at Bear Park.
All right, Michael?
I think so. You're going to reduce the 4 that are there to just these 2 and repurpose the 2 that still have that are still functional. So 2 of them are going bye-bye.
Correct.
Okay.
This had me dive in a little deeper, finding like how to retrofit, from typically. So there are some things we'll have to do to meet standards, mainly like the backs of them. So the backs here that are at the pool, and then also down on the small diamond, we have to put in 42-inch backs on them. So we'll be looking to do that with the materials that we have.
So then the 2, because I went by the park, you've taken the bench, the slabs up 2 of them.
Yeah.
Those are non-repairable, or you can't
Correct.
update them or fix them or anything?
Correct.
Okay, that was.
Yep. No. Bill, did you have anything?
No, thank you.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. So moved. All right. Going to future agenda items. What do we have?
I just, the mask policy, we said it's good till September 1st, we're going to revisit it the August meeting, not the September meeting.
Correct.
I'd like to put at least a discussion of a referendum regarding ATVs on the June meeting.
And don't want to lose the other parts of the glacier's edge that we didn't talk about. We're talking about points 1 and 2. And so give it a couple months, but maybe we can look at points 3, 4, and 5 regarding glacier's edge in July or August.
Okay. You think that's gonna give them enough time?
August, September, I mean, not, timing is just, I don't want to lose it, so I would like to put it on the agenda in the year.
All right, and I would ask if a referendum, you should go to the Wisconsin Election Commission and look at their 19-page document on referendums. So we have a better understanding. It was updated November of 2019. So if you can go there and read that, that'll give you understanding of the options and what they're used for. All righty. And just so you know, June was going to be already pretty packed, so.
Okay.
But I hear what you're saying. We'll get on as soon as possible.
Yeah. I just may miss the July.
What's that?
I may miss July.
Oh, okay. All right.
It goes to August.
Yeah, okay. Anything else? All righty, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say so move. Good job, everybody.